So we are on page 243 at the very bottom of Sri Sarada Devi and her divine play, looking at the divine feminine, God as mother. And we just got finished reading last week of all the different plays that she went to see. And the last one that she saw was the story of Ramanuja when he was given the guru, his teacher gave him a mantra that would take him to heaven, but warned him, if you tell anybody else this mantra, they'll go to heaven, but you'll go to hell. So don't share this mantra with anyone. And as soon as he left his guru, he ran up on a hill and just shouted it out to everybody, and thought, well, if all of these people can go to heaven and I'm the only one that has to go to hell, that's a great that's a great trade. And so, of course, that really made him a saint, and he got to go to heaven as well. But it's a beautiful story. And we closed our class last week just remembering that our own realization is not the point of our spiritual life, right? Vivekananda said to Ramakrishna one time that he wanted that highest samadhi, that realization. And and Ramakrishna said, "Oh, you too, how mean of you." He said, you should work that everyone in the world is realized before you want your own realization. And so that was a great recalibration for me to think about, that really in spiritual life, we're here to learn how to love. We're here to learn what it means to be without selfishness. That whole notion of purifying the mind, in fact, to means the removal of me and mine from our mind. That's a pure mind. It's not a mind that thinks about particular things and not other things. It's a mind that has no sense of itself, no sense of serving itself, no sense of me and mine. And Mother, having gone to all these different plays, was quite significant, because an Orthodox Hindu would never go to the theater. It's very much like old time USA also. Going to the theater, people in the theater were considered to be immoral, going all the way back to Shakespeare's time. And so for Mother to have been going to these plays was quite something. And for Ramakrishna to have gone to see them. And actually for now in Calcutta, in theaters, backstage, you'll find pictures of Ma Sarada and Sri Ramakrishna, because of their kindness and their deep love for the actors and actresses. And they're really reaching out to make a bridge. And so I think it just really ties in with that story, that we as people, as spiritual seekers, we don't represent institutions, we don't represent sects, we represent humanity at its very best, which is humanity that's lost in love, in compassion, in a gracious and caring attitude toward everyone and everything, and fulfilling Ramakrishna's teaching that the highest worship is the service of God in living beings, God in man. And so for us to understand, that's the point of our spiritual life. Realization will come as a well, what would you call that? It just comes of its own accord, in that pursuit of pure love, in that pursuit of the manifestation of divine love. So it's not really the point of our practice. It's just one of the things that happens because we're practicing, because we're returning to our nature and removing ego, our selfishness from these things. And so continuing on in the last two sentences on page 243, Chirot Prasad Vidya Vinod, a famous playwright and a devotee of Holy Mother, wanted to see Kinari, a musical. On Sunday, the 18th of September, 1918, Holy Mother went to see it with Swami Sharadananda. As a mother never discriminates between her good and bad children, so Holy Mother loved the stage actresses, although they came from questionable backgrounds. Holy Mother appreciated their talents in acting and music, as well as their sincere devotion for her. She had been born and brought up in a conservative and orthodox Brahmin family, but she understood the importance of the theater. It carries art and culture, religion and philosophy, history and tradition to the masses. The Puritans of society gradually became silent when Ramakrishna, Holy Mother, and Swami Vivekananda visited theaters and gave recognition to the actors and actresses who in those days were treated like outcasts by society. And this is the very essence of the Divine Mother. This is the essence of the avatar, of the incarnation of God, and Mother being that incarnation of the divine feminine as God as Mother. This is what is the very definition of her being, just this motherhood of everyone, which really we can build our entire faith on, this notion of Mother's acceptance and Mother's love and Mother's grace for all of us, and to allow that sense of grace to become what takes us forward, to become what gives us our freedom. So mother's compassion and Mother's graciousness, she risked her reputation for it. That last sentence there where it says the Puritans of society gradually became silent. So, in the beginning, she was suffering a lot of judgment and a lot of ill talk and ill will behind her back for having, for accepting the company of actors and actresses, and for being willing to go and see their shows and to present herself in a theater, which was considered a very immodest thing, especially for a guru or a saintly person in those days. All right. So Girish Ghosh, who was kind of behind all of that, he was a great playwright, director, and performer in the theater in Calcutta. This next section is called Girish's Passing. Girish's talent and magnetic personality attracted many people, whom he brought to the Master and Holy Mother. He was also extremely generous in his financial support of the Master, of Holy Mother, and the disciples of Ramakrishna. Later, Holy Mother recalled from incidents regarding Girish, it was Suresh, Surendranath Mitra, who gave money regularly to support the monastery. Girish also gave something. He bore all of my expenses for a year and a half while I was at Nilambar Babu's house at Belur. Earlier, he was a wretch and moved in bad company, running a theater, but he was a man of great faith, so he received the Master's unbounded grace. The Master gave him liberation. Once the Master said, Girish was born as a part of Shiva. Wow, that's some real things going on there. The fact that the Master gave Girish realization, so he was a realized soul, according to the Divine Mother, and that he was a man of great faith. And so it was that faith, Ramakrishna teaches that faith is the root of all. And it's that faith in what? Not in the existence of God, not in those kinds of things, not in things we just can't explain. Really, faith is about your being able to trust the notion of an unconditioned love. It's you being able to give yourself permission to accept a grace based on and without condition, that it is a divine grace toward you, and that through that you can let go of your own bad conscience. Through that you can let go of your own self-condemnation and your own self-judgment toward your life or your past or the things that you're carrying. It's your permission to lay it down and to be free from it. And that is a greater faith than we realize. That requires an immense amount of inner freedom and inner permission to accept that level of forgiveness and to trust it. And that in learning to trust it, that is where coming to know the divine, coming to know the presence of the divine, not in an imaginary way, not in a philosophical kind of way, but in a way that uh, is real to you. And through practice, through that purifying of the mind, through that the practice of selfless service, the practice of meditation, the practice of being of thinking of your highest ideal every day, the practice of reading scripture, the practice of hanging out in holy company. All of these things will build that experience of God, not just a belief, but an experience of the divine, because that is your nature. Your body is first and foremost a temple. It's not first and foremost a playhouse or a bouncy house. Your body is first and foremost a temple, and how rarely we use it for that. How rarely do we think of ourselves in that term, in that sense. This faith that Ramakrishna says is the root of all is exactly that. It's not believing something because it can't be proven. It doesn't have things to do with that. It's growing in a knowledge of a love that we have not seen in this world. It's building a dependence, a reliance, and a strength from a type of love that we have not seen, that we cannot know in this world where everything is bartered, a little bit of this for a little bit of that. And so faith is about building that. It's building your relationship with God because of the unbounded love of God, because of an unconditioned love of God. And so faith is really that. Faith is knowing a love that's unbounded and without condition, given to you freely and deeply, and upon which we build and access the temple of the body, the temple within. And so
could you repeat that about that faith definition, please?
Okay, I'll try. So faith is not a belief in things that are unseen and can't be proved, or faith in something that can't be experienced. Faith is the building of a dependable relationship with the presence of the divine within you, based on a love that we can't know in this world, based on a love that we have not seen in this world. It's faith in a love without condition that is given to you by God, by the beloved, simply for no reason. It's being able to trust something that we've never seen before, that we've never known. And through that trust in love, in that kind of love, through that opening to the idea of a love that is profoundly deep and without any condition or reason, it's through that knowledge of that love that we access this unbounded grace. And so having faith in the existence of a grace that is all that is necessary is the way that we are allowed to let go of our fear, our self-judgment, our self-hatreds, our insecurities. It allows us to know God and to build a relationship that doesn't involve egoism, that isn't because we behave in a certain way, isn't because we think in a certain way, but is because we are responding to a pure love, a love from another world, from a love that cannot be found in this world where everything is metered out in small quantities. And so we see that here in Girish, he was an alcoholic. He was, he was a man of the theater, which meant that probably many other things were a part of his life that kind of fall under the idea of being a wretch who moved in bad company, running a theater, as she says, as Holy Mother says there. But he was a man of great faith. And so because of that great faith, he received unbounded grace. And that is exactly that whole section of what we were just talking about. And the master gave him liberation through that faith, in that unbounded grace, in that unconditioned love. It's through that Girish knew God, came to know God. It wasn't because of behaviors and actions and practices and mantras and whatnot. It was because Girish dared to believe in a love that was great enough to accept him as he was. And through that unbounded grace, through that access to that kind of love and faith in that kind of love, he became a saint, became a knower of God. On another occasion, Holy Mother said, the Master's disease was due to accepting the sins of others. Right? So very much like Christ and his crucifixion being in through the acceptance of the sin of others, taking that sin and paying that price. Here he's saying that the Master's disease, his throat cancer, the defilement of his body by disease, was because of his taking on the karma, the ugly karma of others. He said, I have this cancer because I took on Girish's sin. You know, Girish would not have been able to bear the suffering of his sinful actions. That is a beautiful statement. Even that was done out of love by Sri Ramakrishna. You know, that he was willing to do the suffering because he knew that Girish would not be able to bear the suffering that was due for the way that he lived. So really that kind of compassion, to be touched by that kind of compassion, that's the gift of grace. To be able to know that God isn't just covering your sin because he's a great guy, which is a good enough reason, but not the reason. But that the reason is because he knows that you couldn't bear the suffering that you would have to go through to pay for it yourself, to pay for the karma, to balance that karmic scale. And so through this faith in this unbounded love, we receive this unbounded grace. And by that unbounded grace, we see God. And we find the fulfillment of life. And so the Master gave him liberation. And the Master once said that Girish was born as a part of Shiva. Shiva had his demons, you know. On another occasion, Holy Mother said the Master's disease was due to accepting the sins of others. He said, I have this cancer because I took on Girish's sin. Girish would not have been able to bear the suffering of his sinful action. The Master had the power to die at will. He could have easily given up his body in samadhi, but he endured all that pain in order to unite his young disciples. On the 11th of February, 1912, Holy Mother said to a devotee, Alas, Girish is dead. Today is the 4th day. His relatives came here to invite me to their house to attend the ritual. He is no more, so I did not feel the need to go there. Ah, a veritable Indra, the king of gods, has fallen. Oh, what tremendous faith, what tremendous devotion he had for the Master. Wow. Imagine that, to go from calling him a wretch to calling him a veritable Indra, the king of gods. That's the power of divine love. That's the transformation of faith that's available to us. That is any of us asking for anything more than that? That is grace and that is faith. And that faith is your willingness to open and to trust that there is such a thing as unconditional love, and to find the shrine within this body and to finally return this body to its primary purpose as a temple, and to worship in that love, in that grace within, and through that allow God to shine in you, making you look as a saint, making you look as a great lover of humanity, of the world. Chapter 16, Holy Mother and Mahendranath Gupta. O Lord, your nectar-like words relieve the burning misery of afflicted souls. Your words, which poets have sung in verses, destroy the sins of the worldly people forever. Blessed are those who hear your vast glory. Blessed indeed are those who speak of you. How unparalleled is their bounty. Providence chose Mahendranath Gupta, known by his pen name M, to record the gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Although M was a householder devotee, he often lived with his guru Ramakrishna and served him with heart and soul. When the master passed away on the 16th of August, 1886, M became devoted to the Holy Mother and served her according to his means for the rest of her life. The mother was very comfortable with M and his wife, Nukunja Devi, because she was aware of M's steadfast love, his unflinching devotion, his unselfish service, and his complete obedience to the master. In the early days, she did not hesitate to stay with M's family in Calcutta when she had no place of her own. That is an amazing list of characteristics right there. If you want to know what is a great disciple, this list of characteristics here is something. Steadfast love. Love for the divine that's steadfast. It's not up and down. It's not based on mood. It's not based on remembrance, whether you, you manage to remember or not. That it's a constant love. It's a love that's steadfast, that is unchanging. An unflinching devotion. Just unflinching. You know, that unflinching devotion comes from an absolute ability to trust the love on the other side, to trust this unbounded grace. That's where unflinching devotion comes from. It's having just a steady conviction that is just unflinching. There's never a doubt, no matter how badly you've made a mistake, no matter how far you've walked away, no matter how much you've forgotten, to have this unflinching belief in the love of the divine love and nature of this entire existence, this entire being, and to live an unflinching response to that, a constant emanation of a gratitude, of an awe at the nature of this love, at the depth of this love. Unselfish service, right? Because it takes, we talk about that fact that an unlimited grace requires an unlimited humility, right? And that unlimited humility means the elimination of this sense of me and mine in our own mind. And when that is gone, what is left but selfless service? The worship of God in everything that you see, the relationship, the emanation, the expression of the divine love that you've come to know, that has inspired this transformation of yourself into a saint, into a divine. To have that unselfish service and a complete obedience to the master. This complete obedience to the master happens when all sense of self-will has disappeared, where all sense of desires that arise from body and mind have disappeared. At that point, when those are gone, you realize a oneness between what you consider your will and the divine will, that they are the same will, because your realization, your knowledge is of the fact that you are not separate and apart. And so it's not giving up your will to follow somebody else's will. It's you arriving at the knowledge that your will and the divine will have always been the same, that you were deluded and living in ignorance when you believed your will to be separate and different from God, from the divine. Since the highest truth is thou art that, so the highest, the divine will and your will in actuality are one and the same. And so this complete obedience can only happen that way, when there's no reservation of any space within your mind for yourself, for a lower self, for a self that varies from its nature, from a self that hurts itself, from a self that hates itself, that we leave no space for that within us. That this complete obedience is there because we know a oneness. The trust is absolute in the divine will. The knowledge that anything counter to the divine will is an absurdity. That we would never, like Brother Lawrence says, I would never even pick up a piece of straw from the ground without his permission, without the divine permission. It's that kind of surrender where we see that our will, our highest ideal, that the highest of ideal of ourselves is God, is the divine. And knowing that and leaving no space for any difference there. That's what it is to be a mature devotee of the divine. M's mother died when he was a young man, and he felt a terrible emptiness inside. His departed mother consoled him in a dream. I shall always be with you, but you will not see me. Shortly after his mother's death, M began to have difficulties with his extended family. Distraught, M thought of committing suicide. One night, he and his wife left the family home and went to his sister's house in Baranagar. A few days later, on the 26th of February, 1882, M met his guru, Ramakrishna, in Dakshineshwar and eventually found his lost mother in Holy Mother. M said, we visited the Master over a period of 5 years, but never saw Holy Mother. From time to time, the Master would refer to Ramlal's aunt, and one day I asked, who is Ramlal's aunt? The Master replied, oh, she lives in the Nahabat. She was the guide and pole star of my life, but I never saw her face during that time. When she became elderly, she lifted the veil a little from her face. M brought his wife to meet the Master on a number of occasions, 2 of which were described in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. On the 7th of March, 1885, M wrote, Holy Mother, Sri Ramakrishna's wife, was living in the Nahabat. Occasionally, she would come to Sri Ramakrishna's room to attend to his needs. Mohini Mohan, M, had brought his wife and Nabin's mother with him to the temple garden from Calcutta. The ladies were with Holy Mother. They were waiting for an opportunity to visit the Master when the men devotees would leave the room. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting on a small couch and talking to Mohini. Mohini's wife was almost mad with grief on account of her son's death. Sometimes she laughed and sometimes she wept, but she felt peaceful in Sri Ramakrishna's presence. Master, how is your wife now? Mohini, she becomes quiet whenever she is here, but sometimes at home she becomes very wild. The other day she was going to kill herself. When Ramakrishna heard this, he appeared worried. Mohini said to him humbly, please give her a few words of advice. Master, don't allow her to cook. That will heat her brain, and keep her in the company of others so that they may watch her. Mohini's wife entered the room and sat at one side. The Master suddenly addressed Mohini's wife and said, by unnatural death, one becomes an evil spirit. Beware. Make it clear to your mind. Is this what you have come to after hearing and seeing so much? Mohini was about to take his leave. He saluted Sri Ramakrishna. His wife also saluted the Master, who had stood near the north door of the room. Mohini's wife spoke to him in a whisper. Master, do you want to stay here? Mohini's wife. Yes. Yes, I want to spend a few days with Holy Mother at the Nahabat. May I? Master, that will be all right. But you talk of dying, that frightens me, and the Ganges is so near. On the 24th of April, 1886, M recorded another such story in the Gospel. M came to the Kasipur garden house accompanied by his wife and a son. The boy was 7 years old. It was the master's request that he brought his wife, who was almost mad with grief owing to the death of one of her sons. That day, the master several times allowed M's wife the privilege of waiting on him. Her welfare seemed to occupy his attention a great deal. In the evening, Holy Mother came to the master's room to feed him. M's wife accompanied her with a lamp. The master tenderly asked her many questions about her household. He requested her to come again to the garden house and to spend a few days with Holy Mother, not forgetting to ask her to bring her baby daughter. When the master had finished his meal, M's wife removed the plates. He chatted with her for a few minutes. About 9 o'clock in the evening, Sri Ramakrishna was seated in his room with the devotees. He had a garland of flowers around his neck. He told M that he had requested his wife to spend a few days at the garden house with Holy Mother. His kindness touched M's heart. What is there really to say? Do you see how Sri Ramakrishna cared? I mean, even to say that sounds obtuse. You know, she didn't commit suicide because of that love, and because of his concern, and because of his straightforwardness with her. Really just dealing with things as they were. On the 6th of April, 1886, when the master was ill in Kasipur, M confided to the master, "My wife is having temper tantrums from time to time. She has no feeling for our children. She feels good if she comes to you. She says that sometimes she sees you. She was lamenting the other day that you had bestowed grace on Balaram's wife and not on her. She has no peace. She becomes upset if I don't come here, and also if I do come here. The other night she had a dream that your disease had become worse, and she began to cry, saying, 'O Master, I became rid of all my pain by visiting you. I share your teachings with her, but she does not listen to me. She acts according to her whims.' Nikunja Devi stayed with Holy Mother both in Dakshineshwar and Kasipur. It was through Nikunja that M learned of Holy Mother's patience, her perseverance, her forgiveness, her renunciation, her service, and her motherly affection for all. Thus M became convinced that the Master and Holy Mother were manifestations of the same divine power." This is a great little roadmap right here for learning about the love that M had, his faith, and the faith of Girish too. By making a study of Mother's patience, seeing how she could not be angered, how you couldn't push her to a limit. She had no limit. She would always be patient. She would always be forbearing. She would never resist you. And so to meditate on that and to think about that will help you to deepen that faith that's necessary for knowing an unconditioned love, for knowing her perseverance. She doesn't give up, which means you can fall 1,000 times and she's your mother. She'll come and she'll pick you up again, 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 until you're trying to fight her picking you up because you don't deserve to be picked up, and she will pick you up again, and she will do it again. Her forgiveness, knowing the forgiveness of a mother, of the mother of mothers, of forgiveness, of letting it all go, that you then, through her forgiveness of you, are able to find the same forgiveness for yourself, that your own mind will let go of its constant accusing you of your shortcomings, of the things that you can't do or haven't done, that through this knowledge and study and meditation on the forgiveness of the Divine Mother, you find the freedom inside of your own accuser. And her renunciation, that for her it was nothing but the divine, and she sees that divine in you. She has renounced everything else. And so she looks at you and sees only that beautiful reflection of the image of God that was placed in the temple of your heart at the day of your first conception. Her service, we see that Mother, there was one story, it was 10 o'clock at night, and some man comes to visit the master, and he just yells as he's walking past the Nahabat, I'll have some chapatis, and Holy Mother, I often think, God, if that was me, I would have thrown a pan out the door. he would have been hit with half of the utensils in the kitchen for being so presumptuous. But Holy Mother immediately goes to making chapatis for him. Her service was unbounded like her forgiveness. It was unbounded like her patience, unbounded like her perseverance. That she just served and served and served and asked nothing in return, and never was concerned for a moment about the worthiness of the person that she was serving. She saw that divinity in everyone because she had renounced everything else but God. And her motherly affection, not just an affection, not just a niceness, a sweetness, but a motherly, a heartfelt, a kinship, and a deep, empathetic, I am you, you are me, that a mother feels after she's carried a child in her body for 9 months, and then gives birth and nurtures that child with her own body, with her own self, until it's old enough to feed itself. This is your relationship with the divine. It is at least that deep. It is at least that deep. And so by meditating on these characteristics of the Divine Mother, that's what unlocks the door for us. That's what gives us faith. That's what helps us understand that there is, in fact, an ideal of love that is available to us that this world cannot show, that this world cannot produce. It is a love that comes only through a direct manifestation of the Divine Mother. Thus, M became convinced that the Master and Holy Mother were manifestations of the divine power, the same divine power, that they were both the incarnation of God in its fullness, both the male and the female, the divine feminine, the divine masculine, the changing and the unchanging. Knowing that they, who they were. You see that faith, what it brought him to. That he saw things as they were. M's attitude toward Holy Mother. At Bellermont on the 18th of December, 1924, Josephine MacLeod asked M, Mr. M, today is Holy Mother's birthday. What was she to you? M replied, she was the same as Ramakrishna, God incarnate on earth. He and Holy Mother are one in the same way that Christ said, I and my Father are one. The Master said that Brahman and Shakti are one. He illustrated this with the example of a serpent. When the serpent is coiled, it is like Brahman in the undifferentiated absolute state. When the serpent moves in a zigzag manner, that is when Brahman as Shakti creates, preserves, and destroys the world. Holy Mother is the embodiment of Shakti, or the primordial energy. The ultimate energy, Brahma Shakti, incarnates in a human body at times for the good of the world. It is the ultimate energy that incarnated in dual form, as Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother. So these dual forms, Thakur and Ma, are one and the same in essence. It's a pretty amazing realization, actually, to know that God, the unchanging absolute, and God, the personal God, are utterly one in essence, that there are not two. that you as this form, this active form, and you without body mind are one and the same. That's that realization that the stairs on the way to the roof are made of the same bricks and brick dust and lime as the bricks on the roof. It's seeing that the path and the goal are one. It's where we can find that contentment in our practice, contentment in our struggle, that allows us just to move through this karmic interchange seeming without a grabbing idea of getting a realization or getting a moksha, but for us to come through a state of faith to this knowledge that it's one anyway, that it's one even here and now. And it's what allows us, it's through growing in that knowledge and in that faith of the love that binds that duality into a unity, that through that love that we enjoy our realization without acknowledging our realization, that we enjoy the relationship with our beloved, even though we haven't earned it, even though we haven't realized it in that sense. That it's this faith in that one without a second being the highest truth that draws us closer. That's the final and last prayer of Jesus on this earth. That he prayed that as I am one with you, may they be one in me, that we may be one in each other, and that love will be the cord that binds us together. So it is that perfect love, that faith, that we grow in that perfect love, in the existence of such a love that ultimately manifests as one without a second. That is the cord. That is the means by which oneness is seen, by which ego is destroyed, by which suffering finds its end. And faith is the root of it all. On the 30th of August, 1886, after the master's passing away, M sent Nikunja Devi on a pilgrimage with Holy Mother. They visited Vaidyanath, Varanasi, Ayodhya, and Vrindavan. But within a month, Nikunja contracted malaria and returned to Calcutta with Kali, later Swami Abhedananda. In August of 1887, Holy Mother returned to Calcutta and then in September left for Karmarpur. She returned to Calcutta in May 1888. At that time, Holy Mother did not have her own residence in Calcutta. She lived either at Balaram's house or at M's house, or she sometimes stayed in rented homes. Wow. That's the real life of a sadhu there, the real life of a wandering monk, to have nowhere to call your home, That's the Vivekananda talks about that ideal, Song of the Sannyasin. And Jesus also says, Son of God has nowhere to lay his head. It's like a Holy Mother having no place to call her own. Sometimes she stayed with them, sometimes with Balaram, sometimes they rented a place. It wasn't too much later that she had a home to live in. M mentioned some of the places where Holy Mother lived from 1888 to 1909. First, Holy Mother stayed at Raju Gomashta's house. Second, near the cremation ground, and third, at Nilambar Mukherjee's house. These three places are in Belur. Fourth, she stayed on the second floor of a warehouse in Bagh Bazar. It was a jute warehouse, and her entrance was through the warehouse. Fifth, she stayed in a house in front of Girish's house. Sixth, near Nivedita's house in Bospara Lane. And seventh, at her own house in Bodnan. And here the footnote says that M's description is not complete. Apart from living in Balaram's house and M's house, Holy Mother lived in different rented places in and around Calcutta. It is difficult to ascertain the period of her stay in those places due to a lack of records. But here they list 7. Nilambar Mukherjee's garden house at Belur, Raju Gamashta's house, a house near the cremation ground in Gushuri, Nilambar Mukherjee's garden house, Sharat Sarkar's house, Sakabari Lane, the second floor of the warehouse in Bug Bazaar, and 10-2 Bozpara Lane in Bug Bazaar. M recalled, once Holy Mother lived with us for a month before leaving our home. She presented to our Brahmin cook 2 dhotis or cloths and money, and she bowed down to him. She also asked blessings from him and with folded hands. We were all amazed, observing her humility. Thus, she taught us how to pay respect to others. You see that this is a demonstration of what it means to be without an ego, to be pure in mind, to have no sense of me or mine. That to a cook, to the servant, the Divine Mother bows down with folded hands and asks for his blessing. She thought nothing of herself. She saw the highest in everyone. And this is what that looks like. This is what that looks like. Never a concern for whether we're being respected enough or we're being treated rightly or not. But even to the help, even to those who were being paid for their work, she bows down in that kind of graciousness. When Holy Mother was staying at M's house, his sister-in-law, Krishnanamayi, said to Mother, M says, I have forgotten my previous father and mother. Now Paramahamsa Deva is my father and Holy Mother is my mother. Holy Mother replied, he is right. He is providing food for us. I can talk to him, but I feel shy. This was because Holy Mother seldom spoke to any of the Master's male devotees or disciples directly. Sometimes she communicated to them through Golap Ma or some other woman attendant. Nikunja Devi was the medium of communication between Holy Mother and M, and gradually M realized that the Holy Mother and Ramakrishna were the same spiritual entity. There was no separation between them. Swami Prabhananda probably quoted the following conversation from M's record of the 23rd of April, 1890. M, Narendra, Yogin, and others were at Balaram's house, and Narendra said, the Master said so many things, but rarely spoke about the Holy Mother. Yogin replied, what are you saying? If the Master is Ishwara, God, and the Mother is Ishwari, Goddess. Later, Narendra wrote of Holy Mother that she was the living Durga. Her divinity and greatness touched the hearts of the devotees and the disciples. So see, this is that notion that Holy Mother is an incarnation of God, that she and the Master were not separate, that it was our highest ideal of manifesting both as the divine feminine and the divine masculine. And that to see that oneness, to understand that oneness, is a great gift of purity to us if we can manage that kind of faith, that kind of knowledge. Holy Mother gives initiation to M and Nikunja Devi. M and Nikunja Devi were fortunate to have received the grace of both the Master and Holy Mother. When the Master was alive, he wrote a seed mantra on M's tongue, and then on the 15th of May, 1887, M received a mantra from the Master through a dream. On the 30th of October, 1888, Nikunja Devi received initiation from Holy Mother, who was then staying at Lambar Mukherjee's house in Belur. From May to June of 1891, M and Nikunja Devi stayed in Jairambati with Holy Mother. Holy Mother and the women devotees lived in the house of Holy Mother's brother Prasanna. The male devotees stayed in a separate cottage that Prasanna used as his parlor. One night after dinner, Holy Mother had a vision. She saw M as a 5-year-old boy running naked in the streets of Jairambati. The Master appeared and pointed to the young M, saying, initiate him. Holy Mother wondered, didn't the Master already initiate him? Nonetheless, she immediately summoned M and gave him initiation. M served Holy Mother as he would have served his own mother. On her part, Holy Mother felt free while living with M's family. When the Master was in Kasipur, M wanted to perform the Durga Puja at his home. The Master said that his desire would be fulfilled. In October 1888, Holy Mother was staying at M's house. Just before Durga Puja, the Master said to her in a dream, M told me that he had a desire to perform Durga Puja. Now, you arrange Durga Puja and install the Ghat, the consecrated pitcher. Accordingly, on Saturday, the 8th of October, 1888, Holy Mother installed and worshipped Sri Chanji Mangal Ghat, the Durga Ghat, and Ramakrishna's photograph in M's shrine, and arranged for their daily worship, which continues even today. From then on, M called his house Thakur Bari, meaning the Master's house. This historic event inspired M to record the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Holy Mother initiated many devotees in this holy shrine. Swami Vivekananda and other direct disciples meditated there. Once, Shyama Sundari, Holy Mother's mother, visited M's shrine. When she saw the Master's shoes in a glass case, she remarked, "When Saru was married, could I have known that my son-in-law was God and that his shoes would be worshipped in this way?" M's house is now like a museum where devotees can see an original print of the Master's photo, his shirt, his shoes, Holy Mother's footprints, and many other precious relics.